I'm not a big fan of TV shows, but there was a golden age of them around the tens, and I'm so glad I was just 10 years old around that time, because God knows how painful it is to wait till the new episode comes out. And as probably many kids did do, instead of participating with Mr. White and Jesse's cooking show, I was thrilled to see what my favorite duo Mordecai and Rigby will screw up this time. Years passed and I finally watched Breaking Bad, and damn dude. Yet, knowing myself, if I were to introduce this show to my 10 years old self, he'd probably not be satisfied with it, because your role in this show is insignificant.
Well, I don't know, man. You've been seeming sus lately.
Compared to a show where a character interrogated by some detectives were made us to perceive a former fellow detective who has gone astray and suspected to be a criminal, but shown as a not-so-rebelling detective who's loyal to his work ethics even after a quit. Yet, till the very end of this series, and even then, you don't feel like you've read the right story because we're not seeing it firsthand ourselves. Sometimes the flashbacks don't match what's being said. Sometimes we see what a good liar the characters are, and we have to read it all. A show that gives you the role of true detective. That's something 10-year-old myself would binge watch for sure. The story is circling around two main ex-detectives interrogated by two newbie detectives, constantly aura farming, and literally nothing else, except to give us insight into our main characters. Our detective Marty is a regular type guy. He has a family. He's a father to 2 daughters, respected by his boss, his co-workers. Seemingly he's doing great, except he isn't. He talks Christian, acts like a sinner. He has a wife, but hooks up with cheap bodies as if he can't get his emotional needs met with his wife. And believe me, his wife Maggie really, really loves him. He has daughters, yet so distant that he would share a bed with someone his daughter's age. And Marty knew this girl when she was little and gave her money then, so she wouldn't end up in the situation he shares with her at that moment. What an irony. Also, he's probably not a good detective on his own. I say probably because we don't see him on his own work-wise. When he opposes Rust, what he offers is usually nothing but ad hominem, so this tells something. If Marty is ever good for something, is that he's one of the 2 people respecting Rust in the whole series. In the first episodes, we see Rust being more vulnerable and talkative to Maggie than he is to Marty, but you soon realize it's a one-sided relationship. While Rust is minding with his own business, he is forced, as if it's his duty, to reconcile Marty and Maggie, and she takes her anger out on him and questions his fatherhood, like, "Fuck you." You can tell by the tone of his voice he's done with their bullshit, yet she still has the audacity to use him as an emotional baggage. As a final act, she takes advantage of his weakness and uses his privacy just to make Marty's jealous. Total disrespect.
Fuck out of here.
Marty's character introduction showed that everything I thought Rust was embodied in Marty, and ironically, during the interrogation, Marty described himself to the detectives as if Rust were that person, and he himself were the opposite, a normal stereotypical man. In episode 3, as Marty sees how his life without boundaries has affected him, failing to take on the responsibility of being a family man, he tells his interrogators that he wishes Rust had a family, mirroring in Rust what he doesn't want to see in himself. He is a liar to himself and safe with Rust because he knows that in Rust's hands, these family values will be righteous. Rust plays the good cop while testing the suspect and getting what he wants with the help of their religious beliefs. But when he talks to Marty about religion, he speaks honestly because he has nothing to gain from the conversation. He simply does what needs to be and where it needs to be done. He's completely true to himself, and at the same time he's emotionally broken. Being officially imprisoned for a job he did as a mole for 4 years is truly insane, but we don't know how he handled it. In fact, we know how he couldn't handle it, how he immediately regretted it and ran away when the scene was created in the motorcycle gang. I believe that the Rust we see on screen, as well as the Rust off screen, is a painful but quite ordinary person. If you were to strip away the cinematic theme and atmosphere created by the producers, no one would find Rust's reflection in everyday life strange. The man is a workaholic who only cares about his job, whether at work, at home, or sitting with his friend at the tavern, and as a result of this lifestyle, his emotions have become dull. Because of this, he gets angry at Steve's bluntness at work and gives in to his ego, gives in to Maggie's provocations under the influence of alcohol. And when he realized he couldn't find the actual villain, he lost his mind. because up to a certain point he can persuade with his realism, but when subjected to extraordinary pressure, he lets himself go, and this emotionality is unrefined, irritable, melancholic, immature emotionality. He's not pessimistic, and he's definitely not a nihilist. He's just a work-oriented, emotionally immature guy. If Rust weren't a normal character, or more accurately, if he weren't a human like us, we might have believed the show's portrayal of Rust as an outsider, and perhaps witnessed a Dexter-style transformation, protected by plot armor that would have allowed his story to continue. Given the current state of the world, it's a reality that there are and will be more people like Rust than Marty in real life, especially among Gen Z. What's not the norm is the philosophy Rust has dedicated himself to manifesting in his work. Rust deserves the title of the video precisely because of the contradictions he displays, with a precision that can only be detailed within himself. Unlike Marty, his pain isn't the sheer mentality of a certain norm that rationalizes Marty cheating on his wife. It's a completely separate mentality he has created for himself. The loss of his daughter is actually a pain he sees as a fair loss, something he can interpret as a good outcome from the world's evil. We understand in the story's progression that his pessimistic attitude is an act of defending goodness, aimed at protecting humanity from its corruption. The good he trusts is the evil he denounces and praises to defeat. It screams flawedness, but Rust made it clear when Marty asked him these two questions.
Ask you something. You're Christian, yeah?
No.
Well, what do you got the cross for in your apartment?
It's a form of meditation.
How's that?
I contemplate the moment in the garden. The idea of allowing your own crucifixion.
He welcomes suffering, exposing himself to the pain others inflict upon him, so that they may be spared from it. Perhaps his existence will make a difference for the better, and God, who has spared him from the sin of being a father to his daughter, would grant the mitzvah of being father to others. It would be absurd to think that Rust covers his pain by seeing himself as a divine figure. He obviously does not think highly of himself, but he certainly sees Jesus as a figure closer to him than the devil because of how normal human being he is. We see the lifestyle of the villains, and we don't find it strange that they are closer to the devil because they live more like a wild animal than a human being. In the end, Rust kills the main villain and justice is restored, only to find out that the main villain is not the main villain, and that there are still murders going on out there. And no matter what he does, he can't catch them all. He took his share, and was it enough for him to find light in the dark surroundings?
What's the point of getting out of bed in the morning?
Why keep getting out of bed if it's all meaningless? He answers that his survival instinct was programmed to favor his life and the lives of those around him that benefits his life. It's easy to have a self-awareness that rationalizes pessimism, and indeed, it's easy to be a nihilist in a way that pessimism will take hold of you. But to see your role in this pessimism as a bad guy fighting for the light, and to make it your duty to keep other bad guys at bay. That's my man! He could have been giving in to his antinatalism and do the evil to execute humans from the existence. But the thing with him is that he knows himself and does not do the sabotage. This is his programming. Same goes for the killers whose faces show no sign of remorse or fear. They know their programming. The show shows us the clashes with the villains, but it does so in such a calm atmosphere that we don't see the villains going against their programming and begging for their lives, or our detective heroes' hands shaking in fear. Everything goes accordingly, and they know as if they repeated it over and over. And there is no other question, nor other answer for this eternal recurrence. It's all programmed in our minds to act in a certain direction. He numbs himself in a room full of crackheads and isn't afraid of losing control, but he lets himself go enough in this environment that he does lose control. He wants to stray from the path, yet he rebels and doesn't change direction. We are not witnessing an anti-hero story that justifies the transformation of a good character into a bad one through pessimism and a tragic story. The person in the first episode is the same as the person in the last episode. There is no development. Even in that final moment when he dies and is reunited with his daughter, he does not succumb to his rebellion. When he saw Marty, the first thing he said wasn't, "Why am I still alive? Kill me," or anything like that. It was that there were still killers out there, and he needed to do something about it. He's still playing his role, a philosophy that most people should pay attention to and see in Rust, rather than a red-pilled pessimism.
I saw him.
That's what's bugging you.